Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark, DJ Solitaire here with episode 131 of Retro Goa Explorations, my series in which I present in every episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. We are still exploring tracks that I first came across in the 97-98 season, so roughly the autumn of 97 through to the end of the summer of 98. And this was really an incredible time in the scene with new artists coming out with their productions and groups and projects that soloists that were creating music in the early days of the scene, continuing to evolve their sound, both in terms of production and creativity of the stories and so on that they were creating in their music. And this is one of those early projects. It's one of my all-time favorite groups. And this is one of my favorite tracks that they produced. And I think it's a little bit underappreciated because it was not on one of their albums. It was a bonus track on a CD single. And I remember when I got this, I was in Tokyo in November 97. This was when I found out that Japan Airlines was offering a 99 pound return for a weekend in Tokyo. And I marched to the Dragonfly office and dragged Richard Purple by the arm to the travel agent so that we could both go. And we played gigs. He went back after 3 days. I ditched the expensive return portion, the inexpensive return portion, and paid a very high fee to get back to the UK, unfortunately. But while I was there, I visited lots of friends since I had lived there. And one of my friends who had once come to a party introduced him to it, and he loved it. We were around the Shibuya district and wandered into the the Cisco techno shop in the Shibuya area where everybody used to go get their vinyls and CDs. And I saw this absolutely gorgeous piece of work, Blue Room single by Coxbox with Life Is, that has the Life is a Gas remix by Extreme. And my friend insisted on buying it. He's like, oh, let me, I'm glad you're back in Tokyo. And there's a bonus track on here that wasn't anywhere else. It wasn't on the Dragon Tales album that came out the same year. It's been around, I think, on some obscure comps or, some of those non-label comps, but not on an album or somewhere more visible, not on vinyl that I know. Stay Psychedelic. Great title. And definitely as things I thought were starting to move away from being the kind of psychedelic that I was into. And now this track was probably written at least the year before because they played it at the Burning Man Live, right? And so it was definitely written then because it was in the 1996 appearance that they made in the desert with their synthesizers, with the three musicians. So Peter Candy was also there, and AB was playing didgeridoo. It was really quite a to-do. So it was probably written by the three of them. Now, on the credits, it says Coxbox with Ian Ion, but Frankie from Coxbox and Ian Ion would later become Coxbox, as well as Psychopod, or they already were at this point. So Peter's not on the credits, but it might be part of him. So maybe it's just because it's assumed that he's part of Coxbox. I don't know. In any case, this is a masterpiece. It's a brilliant production. It's got great sounds. It's got a kind of a two-part introduction, which is really, really clever. There's a whole gorgeous storyline. There's some great intervals with a neat minor second, and at a very key celebratory point, perfect fifth. And the sounds are just magnificent, and all the voices. It really is psychedelic and otherworldly in a way that, Coxbox was just so brilliant at crafting. So there's not much else to say. I think there's lots to say while we listen, because, again, there's a lot going on. It is very psychedelic. And, it's interesting. I'll just throw this out now. Just that it was called Goa Trance back then. Nobody was calling it psychedelic trance yet. The word psychedelic was, of course, used. But I find it ironic that, as things were starting to change and we have this gorgeous psychedelic track called Stay Psychedelic, now things are called psychedelic trance, and they are really kind of less psychedelic than they used to be, certainly than this masterpiece from nearly 30 years ago. So let's give this a listen. Coxbox and their glorious production, Stay Psychedelic. So, little murmurs. I love this voice with this echo, and it's going to repeat again. And then there's this cool whoosh that comes up into a neat break. This voice. And again, it's like this being has arrived, and it's making its statement. It repeats it again with some different atmospheric noise in the background. All sounds like Australian wildlife. So it makes a number of presentations of that riff, and then again, this voice comes in, very Coxbox voice. I just love the tension that gets created with this. It's pitched, but without tones, this voice, right? And then that one comes back. And, just the shaping of all of these voices. And, so this is where on a big system, it's really going to take on dimension and shape. Now we get that very sneaky bass line here. I think it's a variation of what would come in Stratosphere and Stratosphereless, which was released before this. Again, there's some neat echoes going on there. And these are all, if you listen carefully, they're really swimming around dimensionally. And then so this is really like one of those cosmic carnival kind of tracks where it's absolutely alien, it's uplifting, it's weird, it's twisted, and here comes this riff, right, from the introduction, with these other voices interacting with it. And so, they sound like different voices, but they also create one melodic line. This important subject here. Oh, not yet. There we go. Right, so they really do. I mean, again, even if you've heard this music for a while, it can throw you off. Wonderful whoosh. There's another bass line here. Just that wild open upper stuff. So there's the rhythm, the pattern, right, as well as the shifts in tonality. I love this gating and this echoing. Just these tones, right, and this neat combination. So a lot of call and answer going on here. Again, like with the Orichalcum one we heard recently, there's just that little slightly off pitch thing that just draws you in. Great whooshes. Very catchy riff. Wild sounds. Notice the shift in the beat. So this is an unbelievable build-up here. Really shifted from the rhythm, right, and the propulsion of the track. Notice that bass line. Keeps building up. Just don't know when it's going to break, and it does so just before the beat. It really throws you off. And then it's just this ecstatic exclamation, right, with all these joyous aliens coming into the chorus. And we get more of those sort of helicopter kind of sounds. Great whoosh again. So pay attention to the rhythm of this. Right, so it's got this real wonderful momentum. Great use of percussion. It's this continual climb. Percussion. Then we get this unbelievably celebratory, uplifting, yay, we made it kind of riff. It's just fantastic for the morning or approaching the end of a party. And then in the background, what we've got is a perfect fifth. So it goes from an E up to an A. And the whole, this is in A. The whole track. All these other intervals are dancing around. And the upward, resolution into the tonic, into the main note of the key really brings this level of gratification and, resolution triumph. So part of that uplifting. Again, percussion so well done to create tension. And so, this non-stop loop really is hypnotic. And the sounds are just so beautiful. Like, how many times are we going to go through this? Now it starts to unwind. Some of that descent happening. Then I'm going to end with a beautiful whoosh. Takes us into the next dimension. Right, and that can just tie in beautifully with wherever the DJ is taking the story with the next track. Wow, what a gorgeous, gorgeous, otherworldly, carnival-like, uplifting, celebratory, completely trippy, out there, what's going on kind of thing. Because we've heard this several times now, right? And I think anybody watching this might have heard this before. If not, hooray. It's wonderful you get to experience this as if it's new, because it's new to you. But this is one of the challenges of having heard these amazing tracks over and over again. We can love them. I can still be surprised by them. Like it's just like, when is that break coming? But the first time you hear something like this and how this sounded in 1997, and certainly for anybody who was at that, at their live performances, and I heard them in London in August of '97, so they probably played this then. I mean, it's just like a whole other musical dimension. The voices, the storyline, the intervals, the interplay of all of those different voices, where sometimes they sound like one voice with, saying different things, or sometimes you hear them as completely different voices as part of a larger conversation. It's just absolutely masterful. So truly psychedelic. And also, by the way, at a wonderful BPM of 142, which is one of the less usual ones, but I think a great one. Right? Quite often things at 140, 144. But back then we definitely had 141, 42, 43 going on. Just one of my all-time favorite tracks from this period, and one of the glorious ones from Coxbox, who were also doing their psychopod tracks at the time and just really pushing the boundaries of what musical harmonic languages and the storyline structures could offer. So hats off, gentlemen. And I will sign off here to leave you with the complete track without my commentary. I'm Mark, DJ Solitaire, leaving you now with Coxbox's beautiful and otherworldly creation. Stay psychedelic.